guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Mail. So for today in the Ask SSM video series, got an email from a subscriber. This guy is retired military, special forces actually. He is definitely enjoying the good life in retirement. He lives in a condo on a golf course, plays every day, and let me tell you, he's earned it. Well, in the last year, he befriended another guy who's retired, except this guy is in his 50s. This guy who's in his 50s and retired has been very successful in his business his whole life, a lot of money and all that, except, as it turns out, he's terrible with women. This guy's been engaged several times, but yet never been married, no kids, and has been cheated on by all his exes. And to no surprise, guys like this that have great success in business and wealth and all that usually are complete boneheads when it comes to women. Well, our guy here, who obviously has been around the block, watches the show, he wants to help him because that guy recently has gotten engaged to a Filipino woman, a gal he met online, then went over to the Philippines, and he's madly in love. And this guy from the get-go knew to warn him to be careful. Well, the guy here who's been successful doesn't want to hear it. Well, recently this guy has found things out to confirm that this woman he's engaged with is trouble, and she's using him. But he's questioning whether tell the guy and jeopardize his friendship, or let him crash and burn. And I've been going to go over here, guys, as I know many times I've covered stories like this because a guy writes in about his brother or his friend with the wrong girl and everything. And I usually give this similar advice. And really, the story is more about the story than the actual advice. Well, and this one really is about guys that are really successful and think because they're so successful in their business or trade, made a lot of money, that they know everything. And yet they don't. And they're usually terrible with women. Look at a lot of these famous celebrities or businessmen that do very well in their trade, start amazing companies, and they've been married more times than you can count because they're freaking idiots. But they think they know everything because they've done well, in business. So in these situations, guys, you have to really always weigh helping them out, preserving a friendship, or because of how they are, gotta let them learn and crash and burn. But remember, some guys just never learn. But anyhow, I'm going to go through the story. It's actually pretty interesting. And in the end, I'm going to share my views on the whole subject here. So it starts off, says here, hello SSM. I'm writing in to tell you a story of a situation my neighbor/friend is currently going through. I discovered some unflattering info about his bride-to-be. I know I need to tell him, but I'd like advice on how to tell him. Okay, well, I've read your story already over lunch, and I have already thought about my answer here. I've been listening to your uploads for a while now and read the comments. I find the comment section very interesting and informative. I think some of your commenters may be trained in covert spy tactics with some of the brilliant ideas that they offer. The crap men have to go through in this current dating world is truly Sodom and Gomorrah. This is why I'm writing into you. Yeah, the community is awesome. You got guys I do think are, trained in spy tactics. It's pretty amazing. I think a lot of people come here not just to hear the stories, but to read the comments. It's pretty funny. I am a retired U.S. Army Special Forces interpreter and translator. So in other words, you're a bad dude. I'm currently single and a widower as my wife passed away a few years ago from cancer. I'm sorry about that, man. I live alone on a private golf course and I'm a member of the country club. I play golf almost every single day. About a year ago, a single guy in his 50s bought the condo above me. I'll call him Jim. Jim is very talkative, nerdy, but an outgoing guy that owns a successful business. Jim would play golf with me 1 to 2 times a month, and we would always have a great time. He would talk about having more time to play golf once he sold his business and retired. We would also sit out on the patio drinking beer, grilling some meat, and shooting the shit. I'm a very private type of guy, but we are becoming pretty good friends. Well, cool. That's a good thing. Not to mention, it's good to be friends with your neighbors because sometimes having annoying neighbors, that could make or break your happiness. My neighbor, he and I become really good buddies in the last year or so that's really nice. About 6 months ago, Jim started chatting online with a girl from the Philippines. I told Jim I was stationed in the Philippines back in the 80s, but other than that, he really doesn't know what I did. In fact, Jim has mentioned casually a few times about me being in the Marines. He's clueless about military, and I guess he thinks everybody in the military is a Marine. It doesn't bother me, I just roll with it. One of those, huh? Although Jim is very successful in business, he is very naive and clueless when it comes to life and relationships. That usually goes hand in hand, and especially clueless about women, on all aspects of women. This guy needs my channel. He's never been married and has no kids, and he's been engaged several times. And the engagements ended because he caught his fiancée cheating on him. You know, guys, it's one thing to be engaged once or twice, but several times, whatever that number may be, and it's always the same situation of cheating. Usually a guy, if that would happen to you enough times, either you would never do this again, no more relationships, as I know a lot of you guys are done with that ship has sailed, or you may say, you know what, maybe I need some help. Maybe I need to seek guidance and wisdom from somebody that is a lot better at it than I am, to at least see where the hell I'm going wrong here, to have a better screening process. Yes, many cheat. In fact, one can make the argument that they all cheat. Certainly seems like it. But I don't think they all do, but I think a lot do. A hell of a lot do. But no, this guy knows everything. He would say stuff like, she's my soulmate is out there, and I'm going to find a traditional, kind, and caring Christian woman. He's a hopeless romantic. Smack! The only thing about hopeless romantics is that they're hopeless. Because no amount of talking common sense to them or smacking some sense in them is ever going to make them wake up to reality. Clearly, as he's been engaged several times. His online chatting with this gal from the Philippines became very serious, and he started talking about marriage. Smack! Yeah, because it's worked out so well other times. Newsflash, gentlemen. Yeah, we all know about the going outside the country for finding your bride and a more feminine women, that type of thing. Being a passport bro. But a lot of these countries, particularly places like the Philippines, while you can find good gals and good people, there are a lot of scammers out there, just waiting for some lonely sucker with money to rope him in, either on vacation there or online. What do you think this guy is? Well, Jim would chat all night with his online girlfriend, Perla. He would show me pictures of her and her family. She is a very attractive girl, maybe half his age. I was actually excited for him, but reminded him I lived in the Philippines, and I told him not to trust anything she says and to hire a local Filipino private investigator. Well, very sensible advice. You're being a friend to him and giving him advice. Well, how do you think he takes it? I told him the U.S. Embassy has a list of trusted investigators that will refer to him. Well, Jim blew me off, stating that Perla was a traditional Filipina and he had nothing to worry about. Smack! See? He's one of those. I'm successful in business. I've made a lot of money. Therefore, I know everything, even though Jim Boy here has been engaged several times and cheated on him. So right then and there, I could probably end this right now and say, let him crash and burn. He's so arrogant, knows everything. But I'm going to go through this because there's a lot of interesting stuff here. The more I told him he's rushing into his relationship, the more irritated and upset he became at me. One day he just told me to pray for his new relationship or mind my own business. I like Jim and we are becoming good friends, so I just shut up about Perla. Jim is a great guy, but I had a bad feeling Jim would get fleeced. But to save our friendship, I held my tongue. Well, that's your choice. Now, I don't know how you came across, how you said it to him and all that. Clearly, it's a sensitive subject. But a good friend will always tell the other friend what they need to hear, regardless of what could happen, you know? And I know you know that, you know, but this guy obviously cut you off right there. I don't want to hear it. Because you know what? I'm willing to bet you're not the first to have told him things. But nope. He's a hopeless romantic. He's a moron. Let's see here. Is where the guts of the story gets good. Some time ago, Jim flew to the Philippines to spend time with Perla. He said he was going to spend a week there to vet her. He came back 6 weeks later saying Perla and him were in love, and he was going to marry her. Smack to Jim. No, she put on the full-on show to rope him in, and now she and her family are going to be taken care of by this guy with money. According to him, she was perfect in every way, and he had met her entire family, and he knew this was his soulmate. Her family loved him, and even her father hugged him and said that he was the answer to his prayers for their family and Perla. Well, that's probably not bullshit. this guy is the answer to the family's prayers, because this guy, she's going to be sending money home left and right to them, And it'd be one thing if she met this guy and she truly was a decent girl and they hit it off, for real. And she sent a little money back home, because a lot of US dollars goes a long way in the Philippines, as I've been told. But no, she's going to fleece this guy. Jim said his life was going to change and he couldn't be happier. Oh, it's going to change, all right. I just listened to him and I said I was happy for him, but inside I didn't get a good feeling about this. I asked him what province she was from, and he said Mindanao. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Mindanao, Mindanao. Well, I'm calling it Mindanao now. Well, my spidey senses went through the fucking roof. I was immediately experiencing PTSD and terrible thoughts. I mentioned I was in the Special Forces as a linguist. The U.S. military sent me to language school to learn Tagalog, the main language of the Philippines. While in the Philippines, I also specialized in several dialects of the southern provinces of the Philippines, specifically from Vizia and Mindanao, exactly where Perla was from. Oh, how interesting. She's from the area that you were, which obviously at the time, and perhaps now, was, for lack of a better term, a shithole. In the 80s, the southern provinces in the Philippines were like the wild, wild west. These provinces were run and controlled by Islamic terrorists. Oh boy, hope YouTube doesn't flag me for saying that. These outer villages were controlled by pure corruption, and the outlaw terrorists were getting support and funding from their fellow terrorists in Indonesia, which was a short boat ride away. It was like the cartels controlling certain areas, and the Mexican government, 1,000 miles away, didn't have the resources or will to control their own corrupt outer provinces. There was no law and order out there. During my time in the Philippines, these groups had gone full rogue and would ambush, capture, and off young Filipino Christian men and girls. They would take them into the jungle and behead them. The provinces were filled with fear and chaos. This shit going on in the 1980s, the 20th fucking century. And I know I'm well aware of a lot of similar shit going on in the 21st century. The Philippine government asked the U.S. military to help them. During this time, I was supporting a recon unit in these jungles, hunting down and surveying the groups. Our mission was to train and support the Philippine military to handle these lawless guys and stop the fear and chaos. We recovered several bodies and assisted in eradicating anyone involved. Well, there's only one way to deal with people like that. And I'm guessing you probably did what I'm about to say, is train, in this case the Philippine military, to fight fire with fire. In other words, these groups that were there that were up to no good, I'm watching what I'm saying here, basically you need to be 10 times more ferocious and vicious to them than they were, and get them the fuck out of the country. It's the only way. This went on for over a year, and during my time, my translation skills in these remote jungle villages became exceptional. We would mainly move at night, and these jungles were extremely creepy and filled with every jungle critter you can think of, including malaria and other things, which incapacitated several U.S. Special Forces on my team. Like I said, you've earned your retirement on the golf course, my friend. I would even translate for the Manila-based Philippine soldiers that didn't speak these local dialects in the jungles. It was a very terrible time in my life. The pressure on me to interpret properly was literally a life and death situation. The images of these young men who were beheaded breaks my heart to this day. Young, strong men that never got their chance to be successful and have a life. Just giving you some background on my proficiency of the local language and other dialects, as the stress and chaos during that time seared that language and dialects into my brain. I can imagine, man. So, gentlemen, now imagine our guy here hearing that his buddy's girl is from that region. You can see why he's reacting the way he is. Well, during that time, I not only learned the language, the military intel briefings explained the logistics and supply chain of the political corruption, deception, drugs, and other awful things. The complexity of the Filipino culture is mind-blowing. Most Filipinos go by nicknames. You may know someone for years and never know their real name. This is how it works there. He says, good people of the Philippines do exist within culture of corruption that is evil beyond words. I'm glad you said that. You gotta make it clear that they're not all scammers and users and all that. But that can be kind of said anywhere. You can have good people and you got bad people. When I'm drooling and can't remember what I had for breakfast, I will still remember every effing word, phrase, and idiomatic expression I learned in the Philippines. I'm not bragging. It is the opposite. To this day, I wish I was never stationed there. I struggled mentally for years because of that place and what I saw and heard. Here it is, 40 years later, and Jim's situation has brought all these memories rushing back. Yeah, it's amazing how things can come back into your life. Well, if you can take something out of your experience there, you can hopefully try to help your friend here, but he doesn't want to be helped. Well, 2 months ago, Jim traveled again to the Philippines to meet and bring the love of his life back to the United States on a fiancée visa. He flew her to Manila, where they stayed for 2 weeks together, as Perla had to undergo medical screening through the U.S. Embassy and processed her fiancé visa documentation with the U.S. Embassy. Jim would call me and give me updates. He was very excited, and it was clear he was in love. I mean, here's the thing, guys. This guy wants to have a wife and family and good things. Okay, but the problem is this guy has proven to be a complete bonehead, lacking any common sense in that department. And what he wants, as the hopeless romantic, frankly doesn't fucking exist. Or there can be degrees of that, but you got to find the right girl. And as we're in Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0, it's becoming less and less possible. There are good ones out there, and I stand by that. But they're fewer and fewer and hard to find. I was hoping he had found the one. There's no such thing as the one. I was really rooting for him, but he was clueless. He actually tried to explain to me on the phone what the word mahal meant. He was now with his mahal. I never told him that I spoke the language of the Philippines. I only told him I was stationed there, and he was now trying to explain to me a very common word, which means love. He is the one that told me to mind my own business, so I just listened and encouraged him. But inside, I didn't have a good feeling about his engagement to Perla. Trust your gut, not to mention you know where she's from and other things out there, and things you probably learned on my channel, other channels, about a lot of these foreign gals, particularly the Philippines, that are looking for a sucker. Well, he came back home with Perla. She was beautiful, but she was not soft, humble, and feminine. She was the exact opposite. She was loud, boisterous, and had a loud, piercing, cackling laugh that would embarrass any husband. Yeah, guys, I don't care how physically beautiful a girl is. If she is loud, boisterous, basically masculine, no thanks. Well, Jim would take her to the country club for social hour, and she would brag about herself and make fun of someone's nose or ugliness. I did not like this girl, but Jim was all over her. He would always have his arm around her and call her my love constantly. Smack. Jesus. Goodness sake. This guy's been doing this his whole life. And you can tell, and I'm going to get into this more in a second, this guy, he uses his only card to play, his finances, to get these girls. And then he treats them like, I bet he treated every single girl like this. It was completely clueless. And yet, he knows everything. This whole thing made me sick, actually. Well, it's making me sick, too. A few days ago, I was on my back patio drinking my morning coffee, and I heard Perla laugh. She was directly above me on Jim's patio, having her morning coffee and smoking cigarettes. After her laughter, it was clear to me she had a man on speakerphone and who she was talking to. I perked up and started to listen intently. Now listen to this, guys. Give somebody long enough, they'll show you who they are. Well, I couldn't believe what I was hearing per her conversation. Whoever she was talking to was a Filipino man. I assumed it was her brother or father. Probably her boyfriend. She was mocking Jim. She called him, in her own language, a pig, that he had a small dick. His breath stank, he had crooked teeth, and he couldn't last in bed. She then laughed and called him a jungle crab in her local dialect. There you go. I'd only heard this word one time before in my life. On one of my missions in the jungles of the southern provinces, we came across this land crab. It's an actual crab that lives in the caverns of the jungle, nowhere near the ocean. The jungle is actually grown on top of volcanic rock and coral. The crab lives there in these crevices, but is rare to see. These things are not tiny little cute crabs, they are big. They only have one arm and a massive claw. The head and body of this crab is uneven, bumpy, and looks like the head of an elephant man. It has big eyes, it is hideous, and the only time we saw this vile creature, it scared the shit out of me. And so she's calling him this crab here. And look, I learned something today about the fucking crabs in the Philippines, and you did too, guys. The local Filipino operator called out the name of this thing and said to stay away from it or it would find us when we were sleeping and torment us. The sight of this thing haunted me, and when Perla called Jim this thing in her local dialect, my blood started to boil. This bitch called Jim the most disgusting and vile creature that exists in my memory, and a creature that the locals rarely ever saw, but knew was hideous beyond belief. I knew right then and there that she was going to F over Jim, and I couldn't believe it. My mind was reeling. Jim had already given me a piece of his mind about his relationship, but I had to tell him. You saw it coming. We saw it coming. But nope, not Jim. Casanova knows everything. Well, she continued her conversation to say that he was a walking ATM and bragged about his monthly income, his business, life insurance, and other details about Jim I didn't even know. Smack to Jim. See? She knows all the details about his finances because that's how he led probably the conversations and dates and stuff to get girls. He's one of those. She said that he had only one ball in his sack and could only last 2 minutes in bed. Her man on the other end of the phone just laughed his ass off and would make comments to her about playing the long game and for Perla to take Jim for everything he had. There you go. And again, that guy on the phone, I'm willing to bet you it probably ain't a brother or father, probably a boyfriend or a husband. So this is where I'm at SSM. I have to tell Jim I just don't know how to do it. It will break his heart. Jim is a weak man when it comes to women. Jim is a weak man in a lot of other areas, my friend, than women. I'm afraid Jim will harm himself or his effed up girlfriend. Honestly, Jim's whole online dating thing and engagement with Perla has made me mentally tired. Any advice you have would be appreciated. Okay, here you go. Place your bets, guys, as to what I'm going to say here. Well, truth be told, I'd say two options. Door number one, you do nothing. You've tried in a kind, friendly way to give him warning about not rushing into things and all that, and he shot you down. It sounds like he shot you down kind of in a aggressive type of way. He knows everything, even though Mr. been engaged several times and all those women cheat on him. Door number one, you let him fail. End of story. You tried, you backed away, and you let him fail. You let her take him for everything it's worth, have his heart broken, and maybe only then he might learn something. But you're a good guy. You don't want to hurt him or see him hurt, even though he's doing that himself. So, door number two. Door number two, you do tell him again, but the thing is, if you go about the same way you did before, you're likely going to get the same exact result, and then now you won't be talking to him anymore. So, since this chick is a big mouth, it's likely again she'll do the same thing. So, some way, somehow, people are creatures of habit. So, if like every morning getting up and being on the balcony above you in the condo and having her coffee and smoking cigarettes is a routine thing of hers. And since probably it's like a 12-hour time difference between like the US of A and the Philippines, give or take, depending where you are, she probably does her calls in the morning when it's nighttime over there, give or take. So she'll probably do it again. So if you could some way, somehow find a way to record this and have evidence and find other evidence about her, that's, I think, is the only way you're ever going to even slightly have a chance to convince him that she's trying to, what she thinks of him, and is going to take him for everything he's worth. That's all I see. But if you can't get evidence, I think there's little to no chance that, A, he's going to believe you, let alone you walk away as friends. But I think because you're a good guy and you want to help him, I think it'll bother you more if you don't say something and he marries her, and she takes him for everything he has, and he ends himself, or who knows what, So, it's up to you. I'm not you. But I've reached a point in my life, maybe because of what I do here for 5 years, that I say my piece one time, like you did, and they don't want to hear it, okay. Crash and burn. And then when they crash and burn, if they want help, okay, I'll help you. So you can choose. I really am torn on this whole thing between, but I mean, a good friend will always, well, damn the consequence, they want to help their bro. But you've only known him a year. And yeah, people can bond quickly, but still, the fact that he gave you a hard time about it, that makes me more on the side of saying, okay, let him have it. The thing is, guys, I started smacking guys in videos years ago when I do these stories because when it comes to guys, we are pig-headed. We really are, We're stubborn. And you got to literally verbally smack or sometimes physically smack some sense into us. I mean, I will say this. This is one thing. By and large, women are not pig-headed like guys are in that department. A woman will ask for directions if she's lost, whether she's driving somewhere, whether she's at the store. A guy will walk around Home Depot 66 times to find a fucking hammer or whatever he's looking for, a piece of something for his air conditioner or something for plumbing, without asking the guy in the orange apron, where's the fucking plumbing section? Where can I find this? Where can I find that? A woman will walk up, hey, where can I find that? Boom, not wasting any time. We are stubborn, we're pig-headed. Or a woman will read instructions how to build something, if they build something. A guy will just open the toolbox and start building something and not look at the instructions. We're pig-headed. So it's very difficult when it comes to that. So that's why I smack guys. And it means you got to smack some sense into him. If that's what you want to do, you got to do it. But at the end of the day, you could say everything. At the end of the day, with this guy, you could literally have a recording and have it understandable. And he'll still not want to hear it, and still tell you to go to hell. So whatever you do, what happens. If you do tell him everything and even have evidence and he still reacts in a way that he's like, go to hell, and yet you still part ways as friends, then at that point, then back away. And if he crashes and burns, that's that. And he will crash and burn because she's using him, obviously. And I will say this, whether you don't say anything or you do say something and you remain friends, and she uses him and he crashes and burns, and she takes half his money and all these things, and he's heartbroken, depressed, and he comes to you, at that point, if it were me, I'd say, all right, man, I'm here to help you, but you need help. And if you want me to stay friends with you, you're going to pull your head out of your ass and get your shit together and send to my channel. You can't send him to my channel now. There ain't no way he's going to want to hear from me. Because if he thinks you are tough and offending his delicate nature, there ain't no way he's going to like me. Oh, hell no. Because guys like that do not like guys like me or most guys in the comment section. So that's what I think. And for all you guys out there, same darn thing. Door number one, door number two. But it is a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And if you care about somebody, your bro, your brother, your friend, whatever, they make the mistake and you shut up to preserve the friendship. They get hurt. You don't want your friend hurt. You say something and they're pissed off. You don't want to talk to you anymore. Then you lose that friend. But I always see it best to help them so long as they haven't already told you no way, no how prior to that. So that's what I think. But again, guys, the theme of this video, amongst many other things, is guys that are successful in their businesses, their trade, made a lot of money, they think they know everything. Because, I mean, that really is the pinnacle of success to most people when you make a lot of money and you can retire in your 50s. Most Americans aren't retiring in their freaking 50s. And I applaud that. I applaud his success. But it doesn't mean you know everything. I've done well for myself. I sure as hell don't know everything. And I always ask people for advice and counsel on areas I don't know anything in. Because I've realized in my life that I don't know everything. But people, not everybody's that way. So there you go. I wish you the best. And sir, do let me know how things go either way. And I'm sure a lot of the guys want to hear it too. So guys, let them know in the comments section what you think. You don't have to agree with me, but just he's asking for advice. So the more you guys take a moment to respond, he'll appreciate it. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about that. I said that. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.